This is real. This is me. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, yeah. Gonna let the light shine on me. I'm exhausted. On a basic level, I'm just exhausted. I'm a neurotic person, and my understanding of the meaning of the word neurotic is that it means that you doubt yourself a whole bunch. I believe all kinds of crazy shit, right? But on some days, it's like, yeah, I believe all kinds of crazy shit. Woohoo! I'm awesome. I'm so special and unique and smart. Everybody else is dumb. I know what's up, and none of you are on my level, right? And then other days, it's like, oh God, why am I alone? Why am I the only one who believes all this? Why is it just me? There's gotta be a reason. It's gotta be personal. It can't just be that I'm smarter than everybody else. Everybody else must be right. I must be crazy. Right? You know, and here I am venturing into politics of all things. Like I care. Like I know anything about politics. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm better on than all these people, right? I judge them. They're so boring. They say boring things like, ooh, women should have a right to choose, and oh, our schools should be well funded. But like, you know, maybe that's all we need. Maybe all we need is somebody who is going to make sure our schools are well funded, and not believe crazy stuff. But I don't know, on a fundamental dispositional level, I don't know how I'm supposed to accept millions of people saying the same things over and over again. You know, I'm too artistic for that. I am. I'm too creative. Maybe politics isn't the right place for creativity, but I'm too creative. I just can't stand the same thing over and over again. It's like with movies or TV shows or anything. You recognize a trope. And then once you recognize that trope and you see it over and over again, it becomes a cliche. And then somebody parodies it. And then you see the parody. And then when you see somebody behaving in that way that has been parodied, it's so cringe. It's cringe past that point, right? Well, we've all made TV shows with the character who's like, them damn immigrants, they're stealing our jobs. Right? That character. And once that character exists, that argument cannot be made without self-awareness. Even if one continues to believe that there is some sort of a wage depressive effect from immigration, you feel it. You feel that character and the potential of everybody judging you as that character if you have that. And the same thing on the left, right? You see the social justice warrior. You see the dyed hair, septum piercing, etc., right? You know, my pronouns are quid quem, and you see that and it gets in your head. And you start to get self-aware, and you don't want to be that. But so many of the people in my life, they've bucked that. And maybe that's better. Maybe it's better to buck it. But they've bucked it out of necessity, because they are the cliche. They are all of the things that get made fun of. And they're just like, yeah, well, you know, what do I care about the opinions of people who are wrong, is kind of their view. But I care. I can't stop caring. Can't stop caring about the opinions of all the other people. And so I'm just self-aware of all of it. So I just integrate all of it into me. And I try not to be a cliche of any kind. And that's not healthy. Despite, well, that took the seriousness out of it. despite being so painfully self-aware all the time and avoiding getting put into a box in somebody else's head, constantly trying to preempt the boxes somebody else will put you in and be like, no, you're not quite getting it, right? Despite all that, I've somehow managed to become an amalgamation of all of the most cringe traits humanly possible. I'm a furry, for Christ's sake. I'm a centrist. I think both sides have good points. Ew. Gross. I sound disgusting just saying it. Oh, I'm wet. I'm panicking and I'm wet. Ultimately, I think the thing that keeps me political has very little to do with politics as it's commonly understood. Politics is this weird debate between two narrow parties. It's been going on since the dawn of time, and they're requisite extremes. That's not what I'm interested in. You know, I think that I'm looking for a cure for being alive. And there is no political solution to existence. A transhumanist is someone who wants to conquer death. They want to beat it with human technology. They want there to be a heaven, and they don't believe blindly in faith that there is a heaven. They want to make it. They want to make a heaven. Is that a political movement? It could be. I met with the chairman of the U.S. Transhumanist Party. It's a political party. There are things we could do to get people elected who agree with the ethical positions of transhumanists and help move us a little bit in that direction. But it's not going to happen tomorrow. It requires a significant technological change. And I don't know for sure when that's going to happen, or if that's going to happen in my lifetime. And it's hard to predict those things, and I can't be sure what's going to happen technologically. I just hope. Ultimately, isn't that just an attempt to solve discomfort with death? I don't like that people are going to die. Do I believe in morphological freedom? Or do I just not want to be in this body? Am I a primitivist? Or did I just go to a speed dating event the other day and exit out of the page where you fill in who you want to match with right after filling it in, and then it brought me back to the page before the completed form page, and then I was like, well, hold on, did it keep it? Does it keep it? Or do I have to type it all in again? Or did it keep it? Because I just hit the back button. And it went back. But now it looks like I didn't do it. But I did do it. It gave me a check mark, and it said, all right, you submitted it. Does that keep it now? Is that, how do websites work? Does that keep it? Is that primitivism, or is that just I don't know how my goddamn phone works anymore? Similarly, I'm not sure that I'm a socialist. I think that maybe I don't know how I can get through my life having to work 40 hours a week or more. Most people work more. 40 seems like too much to me. I don't know how anyone does that. It hurts. Is that a political opinion? That it sucks to have to do what you have to do to be allowed to continue eating food? Probably not. It's just a painful reality. Maybe there are some things that could make it a little bit better, but at a certain point, you just got to recognize that maybe some of this is just the way it is. Do I want a program where the government pays people to exercise, or do I just want me to get paid to exercise because I can't self-motivate and I need help? So, if that's the case, let's drop all pretenses, shall we? In for a penny, in for a pound. There's a concept called a network state, and a network state was theorized by anarcho-capitalists. And anarcho-capitalists basically believe in doing away with all government entirely. So when they call a network state, what they really mean is a non-state entity that provides the same kinds of services that a government provides, but they provide it privately and you pay for it. Kind of like how you have to pay to go to the hospital now, but you would have to be paying for the police and paying for the courts and paying for the basic functions of law, basic road work, basic infrastructure. But a network state would go beyond privatizing any one of those things and would privatize everything. It would be a single global network, and they usually propose doing it via cryptocurrency, which I think is pretty silly because cryptocurrency doesn't really have great privacy protections, and cryptocurrency can kind of be used to get around any kind of a rule of law. It can be used to do even terrible things like buy child pornography or guns or other terrible things like that. So that's why you need a rule of law. You need a sort of a collective norm of enforcement. So if you want to create a global institution to siphon power away from geostates while retaining the capability of enforcing rules like child pornography being bad, then you need to create a network state, a global network state that has the capacity for the rule of law. If you want to give it the capacity for the rule of law, it needs to actually have authority, which means it needs to actually have police. It needs to actually collect taxes, and it needs there actually to be punishment if you don't pay your taxes. So we're talking about a global digital network that one can voluntarily join, but which collects taxes and provides basic government services, and which has a form of public police that isn't attached to any one geographical region, but rather exists around the world. The police would have to fly to your place of living, wherever it is on Earth, and find you and hunt you down and put you in some sort of a global jail. There would have to be a global jail location, which is easier today than ever before because transportation is faster and more accessible than ever before. So it probably is possible. This state could provide more services than a geostate in order to siphon people away from geostates that are currently floundering and failing. If we believe that socialism is a more desirable economic system than capitalism, then a network state could embrace socialism as a way of siphoning people away from their competing geostates. So you can imagine a theoretical socialist network state, and the theoretical socialist network state would probably be flooded with people, because after all, it's global, it's voluntary to join, and these people could come from literally anywhere. These people, for possibly well-intentioned reasons, might not be able to work. They might be disabled, they might be old, or they might just be plain lazy, but let's assume good intentions for the moment so that we're not judging them. Let's assume that they're disabled or elderly. They might not be able to work, but they come to this nation state in search of being taken care of. Eventually, it overwhelms the members of the nation states that are working and, paying into the tax system. So those people decide voluntarily to exit the network state. Thus, in order for this network state to survive and have a strong, thriving social democratic welfare state, it would need to have some sort of a enforcement of immigration. So we're talking about something that involves socialism, something that involves nationalism, and something that involves the creation of a network state on a global scale. Social nationalist network state. Whew. Historically, the existence of multiple competing bodies of power wasn't understood as a failure of the capacities of a rational modern man to combine all powers into a single global entity. These days, it's often assumed that if there are multiple warring nations, that's a failure. That one day progress will eventually undo this and will become some kind of a world government, and that world government will be able to unite all of these different countries under a single banner, and that will prevent conflict and war. Well, what if we forget that basis and go back to a previous basis? A previous basis even prior to the existence of a modern nation state, a tradition older than the traditionalists' preferred traditions. We go back to indigenous society, and you could embrace a new tribalism. You could see the end of post-industrial colonial sort of mentalities being replaced by a return to something closer to the way life was in indigenous societies, but a non-idealized version of the way life was in indigenous societies, with the tribalism coming complete with war and border disputes. But the border disputes now would not be on the basis of simple geography, they would be on the basis of network states. What I'm describing is a neo-tribalist global order of competing network states, each of which provides for its people, but on a limited scale, which has an intimate knowledge of all of the members within each network state, who are deeply and intimately bonded to one another on the basis of community. They come together because they share an ideology and they share a belief about how they should be governed, and they share a sort of a tribal understanding. This tribal understanding would go beyond any ancient attempts of tribal root making like race, and it would instead embrace itself based on membership. It would be a kind of citizenism rather than a traditional sort of a nationalism. And it would be a citizenism contained within a global network. This new rebuilt culture could also embrace a new form of understanding of the roles of men, women, marriage, and other cultural institutions like that, and it could rebuild cultural institutions from even farther back than the usual Christian tradition. So you could look at cultural institutions that existed prior to the emergence of patriarchy, traditions that acknowledged men and women as fundamentally different biological entities with unique instincts, but which didn't prioritize man over woman the way that patriarchal organizations did. You could look to the work of Leonard Shlain for a history of the alphabet versus the goddess, the emergence of rationalized systems of information management like the alphabet basically crowded out the capacity for worshipping female deities like goddesses, and eventually led to the creation of male deities like Yahweh. The emergence of Yahweh in Christian tradition was ultimately, I think a detriment to mankind, because it undid previous relations which had an understanding that while the woman is different, the woman's role is equally vital. There was an understanding of the phrase, women are more emotional. That phrase wouldn't have been patronizing. It would have been a statement of worship. It would have been to say that the emotional is a vital aspect, and only through those differences coming together can you have a sort of a beautiful harmony. Those sorts of alternative traditions could be rebuilt within a global network state. Rebuilt not based on any indigenous society necessarily, but based on the needs of today. You could have polyamorous traditional marriage of some kind. You could rebuild those institutions in these network states, and different network states could do things differently until we arrive at an arrangement of what the best ways to do things are. And we wouldn't all have to agree on what the best ways to do things are. We would just have to agree on what the ways to do things within our particular network state is. We would no longer be subject to the slow-moving bureaucratic systems of the modern nation state, which are alienated from us and inhuman. The smallness of the network would be important for the same reason that the smallness of the nation state could be important. It could be important to have a small network state for the same reasons that it might be important to have a degree of devolution down to individual communities when it comes to government. That individual communities could govern themselves because the human beings there understand one another on a human level. If you can come up with a name for that, that's me. That's what I believe. Come up with a name for it. This is real. This is me. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. I'll let the light shine on me. Now I know who I am, ain't no way to hold it in. No more hiding who I wanna be. Oh, this is real, this is me. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. Gonna let the light shine on me. Now I know who I am, ain't no way to hold it in. No more hiding who I wanna be. This is me.